to where everybody else's negative experiences in life and realities and their lives that they're living become your own, because you start seeing it as that's the only way that life happens. That's the only way that life is.
I was going to kill myself. I even put my cat food recipe in my suicide note, but I changed my mind, took suicide off the table, turned my life around, made new friends, started learning 3 languages, bonjour, made a suicide documentary, spilling my guts to the world, started this YouTube channel to help you say goodbye to suicide while drinking out my Chuck E. Cheese cup.
Now, this is how I was able to come out of my suicide. Okay, for example, I said I had manifested my divorce. I always used to say, well, first of all, let's back it up a little bit before that. Before my marriage, I had been ingrained in my mind that, and excuse my language because I don't cuss, all men are a-holes. All men are a-holes. And this was not from my mom, by the way. All men are a-holes. And you might as well marry a rich man, because if you can fall in love with a rich man and fall in love with a poor man, since they're all a-holes, you might as well fall in love with a rich man. That was what was embedded in my brain. So in my brain, I constantly had all of these negative thoughts about men are always going to cheat, men are always going to leave, men are always going to lie, men are always going to be a-holes, all these negative things in my head. Before I got married, I was still a virgin. And I was talking to this girl at my job. She said, Eileen, just so you know, I know you're a virgin, you wait until getting married, and I was in my early 20s. And she said, you know, chances are that guy's going to cheat on you and then he's going to screw you over, and then you're going to feel bad about yourself because here you are waited to have sex with this guy, and then he goes and cheats on you, and all that waiting was for nothing. And that sat in my head, and I said, oh my gosh, I said, that's terrible. And I would be devastated to wait all this time. I mean, early 20s is not really a long time, but I guess in some circles and some people, that's old lady, but whatever. But for me, I was fine with being a virgin until she said that. And all I kept thinking was, she just keeps reiterating the same things that I had heard before. I said, okay, I'm going to protect myself by choosing the person that I'm going to award my virginity to. And that way, they'll have nothing to do with me in my marriage. So this way, when my husband screws me over, he won't have taken that from me. And rather than giving it to him as a gift and coming to him like as a pure wife, I'm just going to not gift that to him anymore, because he's probably not going to deserve it anyways. That was all of the conclusions that I came to between having that imprinted in my brain, having it hardened, and having that turn into feelings, and having that feelings turn into behavior that caused me to meet a guy and decide, I'm going to put it over here. So I chose somebody to award my virginity to. Mind you, I had a list of my ideal, husband that I had in this book, and it was super specific. It was things like his skin color, things of the way his eyes were, that he would be somebody to like stop and help somebody like on the side of the road, things that he would be a virgin, things that he wouldn't drink or do drugs, and all these kind of specific things. Other really intense specific things that I'm not going to share, but I would say most everything that I had written down, I want to say, to be honest, 100% of what I wrote down, but I don't have the book now, so I can't confirm. But most everything I had written down, I know for sure, actually did happen when I met my husband. I met my husband 8 months later, and he was a virgin. And when I told him, well, my reason for why I'm no longer a virgin, he was less than thrilled, because here he was, my manifestation of me wanting to marry a virgin guy who's a Christian and who doesn't drink and all this other stuff. And then here I go off and completely act in a way that's against the end life that I wanted to have. So all that to say is that it's not too far-fetched to see how I could manifest my own divorce when right from the beginning I was already expecting him to be an a-hole and already expecting him to fail me and to leave me. Because what ended up happening, he ended up leaving, and it was awful. It was terrible and it was awful, and it was a lot of, if you've ever been divorced, it's already awful anyways, no matter what. And everybody's situation is always different in divorce. But man, I tell you what, if there was ever a marriage that I thought would have been saved, I for sure thought it probably could have been mine. You know, we both made sacrifices and whatnot to be together, but nothing that was drastically ridiculous. So for things to end the way they did, it was extremely traumatic for me, especially because he said to me while we were dating, Eileen, I know what you've been through with the males in your life, and I'm going to be the guy that proves you wrong. So that sounds all like rainbows and unicorns on both sides. That was all great because he didn't even have to say that to me. And it wasn't even like we were having a conversation where I was requesting that from him. So that was all on his own, you know, free will and volition. But the fact that everything was in place for me to have my end, my wish fulfilled, which I'll explain what wish fulfilled is maybe in a different video. But I was all set up to have this whole wish fulfilled if I would not have had those negative thoughts embedded in my brain to where I was acting and living out that life, that negativity, assuming the worst was going to happen instead of assuming if the worst can happen, so can the best. But I didn't do that. I assumed the worst was going to happen. So I ended up marrying a virgin and not even being a virgin myself, even though I had, you know, worked so hard at being a virgin. So there goes that. How those experiences can just go from experience to memories, to thoughts, to feelings, to turning into my behavior, to my behavior becoming part of the characteristics that I was living out in my life that would manifest this terrible outcome in the end. Because maybe if I would have believed that guys were good guys, maybe I would not have assumed that he was going to leave. Maybe if I would not have, maybe if I would have stayed, you know, being a virgin because I trusted somebody that I hadn't even met yet, knowing that in the future I'm going to meet this guy, I'm going to trust this person, it's all going to be great, and all these things that come with it, then maybe possibly my end possibly would have been different. Maybe not, but who's to say? But that's where we are now. So once I kind of saw how everything played out and I started learning about this, I was like, oh man, all these things I was thinking, this is exactly how it played out in this kind of manner. It's the same way that I manifested with my last relationship when I met somebody who said, oh, I don't believe in marriage. I don't believe in marriage, and just so you know, and they told me that like on a third date, oh, I don't believe in marriage. And in my head, I'm like, whatever. I didn't even think about it. I didn't even care. But when I started liking him, I said, oh, this guy's going to fall in love with me. He's going to be like super crazy about me because I'm so awesome and amazing. And he's totally going to marry me. And it's not going to be a big deal. Like, it's just going to be like, whatever. Like, of course he's going to want to marry me. And other people were saying it too. They're like, oh, this guy doesn't want to marry you. I mean, he doesn't believe in marriage. He hasn't met you yet. That's why. And that made a lot of sense because within 7 months, 8 months, he said that he wanted to put marriage on the table and was asking me about going to the courthouse. From somebody who never believed in marriage, and now you want to talk about going to the courthouse with me. So what I'm saying is, I absolutely, hands down, believe in this whole process where quantum physics, neuroscience, manifestation, law of attraction, law of assumption all comes together. So when I was in my severe depleted depression, this is how I came out of my suicide. I didn't even realize that I was using law of attraction, manifesting tactics and techniques. I had no idea. I didn't, when I tell you I was not looking at this stuff, I was just looking for something in what they call 3D. 3D is like actual stuff that's like happening like today, right now. Like 3D is like I'm holding this board and I'm showing it to you. Not 3D, something in just your different reality would be like, oh, in a future video, I'm going to hold up flowers and talk about how pretty these flowers are. That would be like, you're thinking about like future reality because that's something that you want to do, it's just not there yet. So like in my 3D, I'm holding this board right now. In my 3D, all I was doing was trying to find a way where I can go to sleep, wake up in the morning, and not feel like I wanted to die or feel like I was so alone or feel like nobody cared about me. Feel like I was super angry at God because I believe in God, I believe in Jesus. I am not a fan of how he chooses to do things, and I'm always honest about that. But but I absolutely do believe in God and I do believe in Jesus. When I started thinking about even the Bible, because, you know, manifesting is in all kinds of religions. It's like prayer. You can pray to Jesus, or you can pray to this God or this God or this God or this God. Manifestation is not a bad word. It's not an ungodly word. It is something that everybody does. Everybody lives their life. And that's what manifesting is. When you are thinking about the life you want to have, and then you are living out that life, and then you end up with that life. That's what manifesting is. And that's, like I said, in all religions. When I was thinking about the Bible and I was thinking like, God is saying, okay, God gave him all this power, and then he came to earth and he did all these miracles, and then he gave this power to the disciples, and the disciples went around doing all these miracles. And I'm thinking, man, I've been in my church my whole life, and I ain't see these kind of miracles like this that they talk about in the Bible. Just saying. No shade to pastors for the most part, but it's just facts. So I was thinking, man, all these miracles that do happen, that you read about, that you see about, and I'm here trying to figure out, how does this all pertain to God, where we don't become above God? Because there are manifestation teachers that will teach you that you are the only God. And the reason that they are teaching you this is simply because they know that your brain controls all these other outcomes. Your brain is going to control all these outcomes. So if you can control your brain, you get to control all these outcomes. And if you control your brain, it's easier for you to get your dream life, because now your mind and focus and attention is all on different things and not on this negative hell that you're in. Facts. With the Bible, and you're trying to figure out how does God and the Bible and manifestation all come together, I had to accept that when God says he's given us all these powers to do these things. God says, you know, or Jesus, we'll go with Jesus because I know God could be any God. So Jesus says that he gives us these powers to heal the sick. He gives us powers to cast out demons, or he gives us powers to bind and loose things in heaven and earth. Okay. So we have all this power that Jesus gives us. And in my head, I'm like, okay, well, what does that really mean? Because there's so much nonsense going on in this world that how do you even make sense out of that without Jesus being here to do all the miracles for you? And without feeling like you're playing God or being God or controlling. And that's why a lot of churches, a lot of Christians, a lot of content you see online, it's very, very rare are you going to come across Christians who talk about manifestation, because I'm just going to tell you right now, they are completely ignorant of how all this works. And I am not, which is why I have no fear whatsoever explaining how this works. Do I believe that we are all gods and there are no gods and we just came from the Big Bang and all these things? No, I don't. I do believe that God is God and he created us and it's just his world and we are living in it. But if he said that he gives us the powers that he has to do something with it, whatever that need be, as far as healing ourselves or healing each other or casting out evil, etc., then it has to be something that we can actually do. And when you go to church, I never hear anything about this. I don't. I really, truly don't. And I want to say no shade, but I'm a little bit perturbed because I feel like it's irresponsible to be a Christian and not have had the opportunity to learn how this all works and comes together so that we can have that end result, that end life that we need. Because in that, our minds are more positive, our minds are more healthy. And what do I mean by that is the Bible literally tells us to think on such things. Whatever is noble, whatever is pure, whatever is just, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, whatever is excellent, whatever is praiseworthy, think of such things. And I just happened to walk in my guest bedroom, and the only thing I have on my walls in my house is that freaking Bible verse on my wall. And I just stood there staring at it, saying, is the reason you are telling us to only think on these things and to constantly be in a state of meditation is because if we don't, we are at the mercy of whatever the world is telling us. And the world is constantly telling us negative things. They're not informing us. And people think, oh, well, I need to know. I need to watch the news because I need to know. I need to hear about things because I need to know. It's public knowledge, like just keeping up with whatever's going on. No, because here's what happens. You can be in the know without being inundated with the negative stuff constantly. You can be educated on the realities of what's happening out there, but not constantly flooding your own mind to where everybody else's negative experiences in life and realities and their lives that they're living become your own, because you start seeing it as that's the only way that life happens. That's the only way that life is. That happens in your freaking brain. So if you miss that, when you let the rest of the world train you, raise you, fill your head with all these negative things, with, oh, guys suck, everybody leaves. Oh, all guys don't stick around to be dads. Or all baby mamas are all gonna, they're all gonna take you to court for all your money, and then they're gonna go buy purses with it. They don't really care about the kids. Like, jobs are meant to suck. Nobody likes their job. It's just a daily grind. I hate Mondays. Mondays suck. Oh, I hate having to work. Oh, my coworkers suck. Oh, my kids are so dirty and filthy. They're always going to be dirty and filthy. That's normal. It's typical for teenagers to have an attitude. It's typical for my spouse to not want to spend time with me. Oh, that's just life. That's just how it is. All these things that they have it on TV, they have it in movies, they have it on YouTube videos, they have these stupid memes, they have these stupid TikToks, all these things that people just keep hearing over and over and over again, reliving over and over again. And you tell me, because it's true, because it's facts. No, it's your truth, it's your fact, because you choose it to be your truth, your fact, because you've had it hardened in your mind. But when I came out of my suicide,